Firefight in Mogadishu, at least 12 killed as Somali troops and gunmen battle it out in the heart of the capital. Civilians were slaughtered in the clash between troops and fighters near Mogadishu's main market. Do the peace talks taking place now in Djibouti offer any hope for an end to the mayhem? I'm Nick Clark. Fierce fighting has broken out in the Somali capital, leaving at least 12 people dead. Somali troops, backed by Ethiopian forces, were attempting to raid the Bakara market, which the government calls a guerrilla stronghold and which is notorious for its open-air arms bazaar.
Well, the soldiers were confronted by fighters from the Union of Islamic Courts, who fired rockets and mortar rounds. The clashes come as yet another blow to stalled peace talks in Djibouti. Charles Stratford has more.
More fierce fighting and more dead on the streets of the Somali capital, Mogadishu. At least 12 civilians were killed, fleeing the gun battles between Somali soldiers backed by Ethiopian troops and fighters loyal to the Islamist opposition.
My wife was killed by a mortar shell as she was cooking breakfast for our children. I'm deeply shocked by her death.
The violence involving heavy mortar fire began in the early hours of Sunday morning. Soldiers were attacked as they made house-to-house searches for weapons around Mogadishu's Bakara market. The searches break a 3-month-old agreement in which the interim government agreed to withdraw its soldiers, and traders in the area said they would stop fighters using the market as a base. This latest violence is a bad sign for over a week of talks between opposing sides being held in neighbouring Djibouti. The bloodshed comes on a day when representatives of the interim government and opposition groups under the name The Re-Liberation of Somalia said they were close to an agreement. While details are sketchy, a statement that could include an immediate ceasefire declaration is expected later on Sunday. More than 6,000 civilians have been killed in Somalia over the last year, according to aid agencies. The main sticking point to any agreement remains the withdrawal of thousands of Ethiopian troops in Somalia, there to support the interim administration.
They made other agreements, such as the withdrawal of other troops, such as peacekeeping forces in UN coming to Somalia, such as humanitarian agencies to be allowed freely so they can reach people who are desperately in need. They agreed to ceasefire. So the only sticking point is the withdrawal of Ethiopia.
The country's interim president, Abdullahi Ahmed, has in the past said such a pullout would require the deployment of UN troops as a safety valve. But whatever the outcome of the talks, this latest violence does not bode well for a country which has suffered nearly 2 decades of almost continual civil war. Charles Stratford, Aljazeera.
Well, Somalia is considered a failed state, so how did it get into this mess? Well, the country has been in anarchy since warlords overthrew dictator Mohamed Barre in 1991 and then turned on one another. In 2006, the Islamic Courts Union, a militia group, ousted Somalia's transitional government from power. The ICU was deposed in December of that year when Ethiopia's military invaded. For the past year and a half, the Ethiopian-backed interim government has struggled to control the country. And of course, throughout the turmoil, civilians have suffered the most. Aid agencies say the humanitarian situation is one of the worst in Africa, with more than 2 million people in desperate need of help.
Well, for more on the situation, I'm joined by Abdullahi Mohamed, who's a political commentator and founding member of the Somalia Concern Group. Ongoing peace talks in Djibouti, as we've been hearing, yet more are dying in Mogadishu. It's not a great sign, is it?
I think the Djibouti peace process is a glimmer of hope for Somalia. If only the political stakeholders realize the responsibility upon their shoulders. Somalia today has been without a central government 17 years. Thousands of people have been killed. And it is the responsibility of these two groups to realize how important it is to sign an agreement that is possible at the end to finish this fighting.
And what about the chances of that agreement? There's some talk of an immediate ceasefire announcement.
The chance is very high, but it's only if the two sides are not disingenuous about this peace process, because there is a very strong and very commendable United Nations representative in Somalia, Mr. Ahmed, who is doing really very hard in order to succeed this conference. On the other side, the Somali civil society, and specifically the women, have tried a lot to pressurize these two groups to sign an agreement.
What if it goes wrong, if it doesn't work out? What happens if there's failure? Where are we going to go to then?
If this fails, again, it will be catastrophic to the Somali people, because what we know today, more than 1 million Somalis are now displaced outside Mogadishu. All the infrastructures are destroyed, and the situation will only exacerbate.
Okay, and if that happens, what's required?
What is required here is very important. Somalia is a failed state. It has two of the forms of sovereignty, complementary forms of sovereignty, and I mean here international, the juridical, and the domestic sovereignty. And it's very important quickly to say that what Somalia needs is how the international community to empower the domestic sovereignty of Somalia. Somali government and the Somali people cannot at the moment control their borders. They cannot exert pressure on the warlords, and I think the international community should deploy a blue helmet force to replace the Ethiopians who are now just perpetuating the situation in Somalia.
All right, Abdullahi, Abdi Mohamed, we'll have to leave it there. Many thanks indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.